This week on Finding Screen Squads, the team is on the hunt. It's about 2 of them. But will the work and money spent pay off?
Platinum cut, pro technology with lace cut hair.
Or will their obsession with the creature leave them fruitless yet again?
Oh man, he took our bait.
Now keep in mind,
Do you want to know?
Hello and welcome back to Parte TV. Now those who know me best know that I love unknown mysteries. Okay, ancient civilizations, ancient technology, cryptid animals, all those things intrigue me. But I also know that I have to approach that subject matter with a level of subjectivity and skepticism. For example, this picture here launched tons of expeditions costing millions of dollars, and it turned out to be a hoax. There's a lot of folks who would use those areas, those kind of spaces, to try to trick a lot of folks, okay? Either for the purposes of money or maybe just to even amuse themselves. But amusing yourself whenever it costs other people a lot of money and hardship, not really a fun thing. Not a cool thing, as Chuck would say. Not cool. So there are things that I'm not quite sure if they exist or not. Once again, open-mindedness balanced with skepticism. But then there are things that I'm really sure do not exist, okay? There's no Superman, there's no Spider-Man, and there is no Thanos. Now, with superheroes, those are usually Hollywood magic. So Hollywood has a whole multitude of flavors, of effects to be able to throw at us that excite and intrigue us. Now, what I'm going to be sharing with you today won't be so exciting, won't be so intriguing as those effects. They're basic effects, really dumbed down effects, but effective on those who don't know better nonetheless. So we're going to cover some of those tactics today.
Number 1, high lumen business and venue projectors.
Now, small business and venue projectors fall into a whole different category. They're generally categorized as multimedia projectors. And they're called that because they're used for displaying all kinds of things, not primarily video, usually PowerPoint, spreadsheets, Word documents. They use an abundance of white light so that you get clean white visuals, okay? Because a lot of times when you're showing spreadsheets, you need clean white visuals, and you also need the text to be represented without being blurry, even if it's smaller text. So they're focused on a different priority than your consumer grade projectors. Consumer grade projectors are typically focused on your home theater, so movies, TV content, things of that nature, okay? Multimedia projectors will present those, but they generally won't present them with the same level of color accuracy that you're going to get from your home theater projection. So most multimedia or venue projectors are going to carry high lumens with them. The average, they start at about 4,500 lumens and go up to 8,000 plus. That's typically because they're used in much bigger areas with brighter lighting, and so they need that to compensate for the space, right, for the light in the environment. Now, you do have some venue projectors that are lower lumens, say down to 1,000, but they're used in dark room environments and usually mounted further away, which brings us to our next item.
Number 2, the use of variable/extended throw lenses.
One of the primary functions that multimedia projectors have is the lens capability to be able to fire from a further distance, okay? So let's just take, for example, your consumer grade projector. You would, if you wanted to create about a 60-inch image, you're going to have to be somewhere in about the 6 to 8 foot range away from the screen, so you're going to have to be relatively close. But venue projector lenses oftentimes will allow you to get the same size image, say about 60 inches, from 10 to 11 feet away. Okay, that's something that you're not going to necessarily be able to do with a consumer grade projector. The question would then be, why would you need to make a 60-inch image from 10, 11 feet away in your home? That brings us to the next item.
Number 3, the use of tiny itty-bitty images.
Now, by and far, the people that get involved in projection do so because they wish to go large, right? They want to go big. Generally anywhere from 100 to 120 inch, and maybe even as big as 150 to 200 inches. But let's just say in your consumer space, in your home, you're usually going to have somewhere between maybe a 90 inch to 120 inch screen. So then why would so much attention be focused on showing 50 and 60 inch images from 10 and 11 feet away using specialty lenses? Why all the itty bitty images? Well, it's simple. See, when you show a smaller image, you have that light concentrated in a much smaller package. Now, you probably found this out the first time you bought a projector and you stuck it about 4 feet from the wall, that you could get a really crisp, almost TV looking image on whatever you're shooting it at. But as soon as you pull that back to about 1.5 times the width of your screen, which is what's recommended, what you're going to find is that that image isn't so concentrated and bright. Okay, it starts to thin out. It doesn't look as bright as it did whenever you had the image smaller. Well, that's because, as we've said in the past, it's your beam angle. Now, that doesn't mean the angle that you actually have the beam pointed at the screen. It means the angle that the beam is actually coming out of your projector. So typically, let's say that you've got a consumer grade projector and your beam angle is like this. If you're able to pull that projector back, say 10, 11 feet to make a 60-inch image, you narrow your beam angle. And much like a flashlight that you can focus, if you focus it tight to where you get a really tight beam, you'll notice it's really bright, just a big bright circle, right? But as soon as you expand that out, you'll cover more space, but the light won't be as bright. Your projector works no differently.
Now, my goal is to provide big, bright imagery that people feel comfortable adopting into their home, so that you don't feel like there's such a loss transitioning from TV to screen. But pervasive on that channel are all these little bitty images, anywhere from about 50 inches up to maybe top end 80 inches a lot. And you can still see that when you move something to, say, 80 inches or less, they're still pulling dark and still pulling blue. This one here was done with a 1,000 lumen projector from about 5 feet away, and once again, still not good. This is still pulling a lot of blue if you look at it by comparison to the original video. So, blue, very blue. Oh, even more blue. That's supposed to be almost a white background, light gray. And you can see even these light images, they come up very muddy and dirty. There's nothing that really comes close to the color accuracy of the original video. Here you can see the gray on the right looks far better. He's using around a 4300 lumen Sony projector there from about 9 feet away, and still can't get it to not pull blue. 80-inch image, this is dark. Dark. That's very dark for that image because those bands are supposed to be gold. And even when he can get a bright image, it's still got a very present blue pull. Now this almost looks like it hot spotting. Maybe it's the 9, because I know on the 9 on this large screen, it was hot spotting like a Dickens. But even with those large venue projectors, when he turns the light on, you can see they get this gray blue haze that just covers the entire screen. Oh, my favorite, this is the blue-faced cat. How you just get the face to pull blue, I don't know. And then we have our blue leopard here. And as far as ALR goes, you can see that screen is not rejecting any of that light. It's all washing across the screen. And the whole purpose of a true ALR screen is to avoid this. But instead, what you've got is an Lumens style screen that's actually just diffusing that light across the screen, and the whole brightness area is washing out. Now, even making these little images, you can see I can replicate making that image, and mine's going to be in eco mode, but you can see just the amount of clarity that you can get on a well optimized black screen as opposed to his small screens. Now, speaking of ALR, I'm going to show you something very interesting here. This is taken at 12:48 while we were at our lake retreat, and you can see I've got the screen in the sunlight tilted up towards the sun. I'm using the HC143X from about 8 to 8.5 feet away. And you can see, now it was hard for me because I kept getting the rainbow effect because it was so bright outside to actually get focused into where I could see it. But I went in way far, and you can see that you can still pick up the image in bright sunlight. Okay, now this was in bright mode. Okay, so admittedly it was in bright mode, and the screen doesn't look or did not look this light whenever we were looking at it. The image looked like that, but the screen still looked dark like you see here. But I had to zoom in to where I could actually pick up the image itself. Now, this is not something you'd want to watch in your house, but guys, this was 24,000 to 25,000 lux. That's 2,400 foot candles plus, which is exceptionally bright. Now, at about 4:30 in the afternoon, we came back from off the water, and I was getting the grill ready, and you can see here now in the dark area it's roughly about 4,500 lux, and in the bright area it was well over 9,000, about 9,800 lux, because the sun was actually starting to move over towards the horizon. It wasn't low on the horizon, it just moved over to where it was going to start to drop. And what you'll notice here in a second is that the sun wax would go behind a cloud, and then the full spectrum was about 4,000 lux across, anywhere from 3,500 to 4,000 lux. And you'll see the screen balance out. It's hard, once again, because of the rainbow effect that we were getting, but honestly, we watch television outside every day using the projector. That's using a $350 projector bought new. And look at the color accuracy, even in that level of light.
Number 4, using a wide-angle camera lens.
Now this next one really cracks me up. When you're filming a display, the whole point of the display is to show people as close to a truly accurate representation of what they can expect to see in their own home, right? Given that they have similar lumens and similar setup, similar lighting conditions, those kind of things. So why in the world would you use a wide-angle lens to film your screens? Well, there's actually a very good reason for that. One, it hides a lot of the flaws. See, whenever you're watching a screen from 8 or 9 feet away with a wide-angle lens, it looks like it's 20 feet away, right? It's almost like it's at the end of a bowling alley. So you hide a lot of the flaws that way, but also what you do is you help people to just focus in on the color pop. And then if you want to get in close, that's where the next item comes in.
And number 5, ramped up camera ISO settings.
Your camera's ISO feature derives its name from the International Organization for Standardization, but what it really is a means to brighten your imagery. So you can see here, I'm going to start the room as it is, bump up to 400 ISO, 800 ISO. And now you can see that there are light bulbs around the light fixture and around the door. So any light source is going to take on this surreal sort of light appearance. But also objects in the room will appear brighter than what they actually are. Now you can see this pervasive in his channel uploads. You can see the windows here. You can see the kitchen fixture here. You'll also be able to see that it washes out white screens, and you can see the windows behind the screen there. This is probably 1600 ISO because it's super bright. And then he was starting a Facebook Live one time, and this is what it looked like. But then he said, ooh, let me fix my camera, and boom. This is what you end up with. Now what that does is it's going to make the environment look super bright, and his screens look brighter than what they actually are without washing out.
Now, the use of ramped up ISO settings is nothing new. It's been covered not only by us here at Partay, but by others out there in the mixed community. So it's something that's been widely known. And the use of ISO isn't necessarily always a bad thing, but in this case it is, because the ISO is ramped upwards, not downwards, because generally in photography you want to use the lowest ISO setting as possible to keep a lot of grain and things like that out of your pictures. But in this case, the ISO is being utilized to make the environment look far brighter, okay, far brighter than what it is. As a matter of fact, one could, not saying that that's what's happening here, but one could use very low wattage bulbs and then ramp up your ISO, and it would look like it's as bright as this room is. Okay? So a very easy way to fool people into thinking that it's extremely bright in your environment, but also as you get closer up on the screen, it'll make the screen look even more brighter. Now, if you pay attention on this channel, what you'll see a lot of times is that the screen will appear a little darker, a little darker, a little darker until he gets right up on the screen, and then you'll see it gets brighter as he gets up on it. That is not the screen, that is the camera. So you just need to be aware of that. Now, from the gate, from the very moment that you start watching his videos, all of these things are in effect. Now, he has made the case many times, not really made the case, just kind of states a lot. He'll cite that he can't fake anything because it's live. But the truth is all of those things still stand live. If you have your ISO ramped up, it's on your camera, which you're using live. The wide angle lens, still there, live. Okay, itty bitty images, still there, live. Specialty lenses, still there, live. Large venue projectors, still there, live. And sometimes these projectors are 4,000 lumens and set in a mere 5 feet away, and you still can't get a great image. So I'm going to show you some more things here, but you just need to understand that live or pre-recorded, all 5 of those are still into effect. So we're going to show you some things here that aren't necessarily a part of the 5 that we just covered. These are really more deceptive. These are direct examples of this guy lying to you. So, without ado, get ready.
So in this upload, he's showing you a 1,000 lumen Sony projector, and he's taking 2 floodlights that he's sticking on either side, and he's projecting this from 24 feet. Now what he tells you is that this is beyond that projector's capabilities, and that these little lamps that he's putting on the side, that they're going to knock a lot of the lumens out of the trajectory just right off the bat. Straight out of the gate, you're losing a lot of lumens because of this light. So one has to question just how true is some of this stuff, right? Is he just sharing a wealth of knowledge, or a quick Google search can actually show you that that projector is set to make a 150-inch image from 6,072 to 7,005 millimeters, which equates to 20 to 23 feet and some change. So 24 feet is not out of that projector's capability, so this is a lie. It's just a straight lie. But what about the lights? Well, as it turns out, another little quick Google search will show you, and here's an example from Texas A&M University, that shows that that's not the case. We've stated this for quite some time now, well over a year and a half. We've been telling people that the light in the environment does not impact the light from your projector. It's the light at the surface that matters. The only place that matters. So more lies. Just as simple as that. And then at the end of this, what does he show you with that 1,000 lumens? More blue. Blue background with blue fishies, which honestly, all of his screen pull blue. So if you're going to hide something that pulls blue, what better to hide it in than blue? Alright, so here we're being shown a manufactured screen sample. I believe the Dark Star 9, but I'm not quite certain about that, but it doesn't really matter. He's using it to produce a star field, and he's showing you that it cannot hold the same contrast levels as his screen. But I want you to pay particular attention to something. During this display, see that little piece of tape to the left? Something happens, and while he's showing it to you in this fashion, that piece of tape gives way, and guess what's revealed? That between his ISO settings and having these screens angled towards the light up above in his room, he was falsifying the way that this screen actually looks, when ultimately, when you see when he runs in, and he runs in quickly to fix this, when you zoom in, you can see that that piece of manufactured screen is superior to his black paint in every way. It's just a fail. It's a fraud.
So ultimately, like many mysteries, there's a question that you have to ask yourself. If these screens are so advanced, why then do you need to use multimedia projectors, large venue projectors at that? Why would you not be able to use consumer grade projectors? Considering that most of the people that are watching your videos are consumers. Okay. Now, someone may argue the case that there's also clients that are watching these videos. Okay, because I've heard that before. But here's the problem with that. No client's going to be interested in a 60 to 65 inch image. Okay, they're going bigger, and they're going to be looking for bigger. So that really doesn't hold water. So once again, you have to answer these questions. Why venue projectors with specialty lenses to make little bitty images, okay, using a wide angle camera lens to film them in, and with ramped up ISO settings? Why would you need all of those things just to show people how advanced your screen is? Okay, that question answers itself, but for the couple of people out there who would always pop in and try to debate, those are some pretty big questions you're going to have to answer, and they don't really have a common sense answer. But just in case that wasn't enough, there were the other things, and those are non-debatable. Okay, so it just is what it is. All right, so the good news is we're going to leave you on a high note. At least what I consider to be a high note. So here we go.
The goal of any great screen design is going to be to bring you as accurate a representation of the original image on your projection screen as possible. That's complicated whenever you're dealing with black screens or darker gray screens, but it can be achieved. And here's an example of our black screen, specular screen, for the same image. Now I'll show you top and bottom so you can see how they look. Now, not one for one, but they are pretty close. So how does Mr. Birds hold up?
All right, with that, guys, we end this episode. Our next episodes are going to be focused on the product displays, so we're really excited about that. If you have questions, reach out to us, and we will talk to you soon. Oh, and Ken, boom.